In 1830, Dr. Sylvester Graham, Presbyterian minister, now known for crackers that would make him roll over in his grave, had a speaking gig in Boston. But he was such a good speaker that the butchers who were afraid of him because he opposed animal products, and the bakers who were afraid of him because he opposed highly refined flour products, got together to be sure that Sylvester Graham would not be able to speak in Boston because the power of oratory is such that it can change things. I know that today firsthand because of our guest who made a speech and a whole lot of things changed after that. Hi, everybody. I'm Victoria Moran, and I am here with somebody really special. I hear this guy is hard to get, so I'm going to feel kind of special that he's here at all. And he is Gary Yourofsky. You have probably heard of the best speech you've ever heard, and he gave it. If you haven't, you can look that up. But right now, you're going to be hearing Gary in real time today. Now, this show will post on Thanksgiving Day, which is a strange holiday we celebrate in the United States because we're so grateful for all our blessings that we decide we're going to kill a lot of innocent birds. One of those things that's weird. And because it's weird and because it's tragic, I really wanted to have someone on today who speaks for the animals in a way that few do. Welcome, Gary Yourofsky.
Well, thanks for having me, Victoria, and such a lovely introduction. I'm humbled.
Well, it's such a pleasure to have you. I mean, I've heard you online for a long time, and to actually be talking to you in the proverbial real time is quite thrilling. So let's just back up a little bit. One thing I know about my listeners is that almost all are plant eaters. A lot are plant eaters for their health, and some of the animal issues are fairly new to them, even though they're not supporting them, which is wonderful. So, for people that don't know your background, what happened, and what you're doing now, give us a little bit of that.
Well, in 1993, my stepdad, Myron, was a clown in the Shrine Circus. He invites me backstage to see the elephants on 8 Mile and Woodward Avenue at the Michigan State Fairgrounds. I didn't know what was going on back then. My blinders were on nice and tightly. And of course, I was excited to go back and see an elephant until I got backstage and saw the elephant in misery in chains. Front left foot, back right foot chained to the cement floor, swaying neurotically. I saw monkeys screaming in their cages and lions pacing pathetically in their cages. And it was an eye opener. I knew something was wrong, something was amiss. I all of a sudden realized I might not be the animal lover that I claimed to be. And from that moment on, I started investigating what was going on to the animals I thought I cared about. I went to Thornapple Valley Pig Slaughterhouse in Eastern Market, Detroit, and saw pigs being tormented, pigs in complete sad states of hopelessness and fear. And this put me on the path to veganism. I realized that I did have to make a change. And it's always tough to look in the mirror and admit that you've been doing something wrong. And I had to do that. I know you had to do that. Every vegan at one time had to look in the mirror and make an apology and make amends and move forward. And I decided to do that. And I also decided to be a voice for them because that elephant that I saw that day in 1993, I actually approached that elephant and I made a promise to her. And I said I would tell everybody about her plight. And I've kept that promise and I've told lots of people about her plight and the plight of turkeys and chickens and cows and pigs and goats and all the animals we share this planet with, all the animals that are viewed as commodities and property. And I'm just trying to awaken people because people always claim to be an animal lover. But then if you open up their refrigerator, there's carcasses. If we were able to x-ray their stomachs, you'd see dead animals inside their bowels. So it is a contradiction to say you love animals if you eat them, if you wear them, if you think they're inferior, if you think humans are more special than they are. That's speciesism. And just like racism and sexism and heterosexism, when one group thinks they're more important than another group, injustice happens. And there can never be equality until we have universal equality. And the animals are dying right now, literally, for some equality. They're yearning for their freedom, and all we have to do is change what we eat, what we wear, not view them as research specimens and entertainment, not put them in the circus, the rodeos, and the zoo, or make them, carry people around in carriages. All we have to do is view them as equals, as individuals, and set them free. And it's the same freedom, by the way, that each and every human being takes for granted. That's what upsets me the most is people walk around demanding life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and then turn around and refuse to give life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to the animals on this planet. Peace begins at the dinner table.
So, why is it? I ask this almost every episode. Why is it that you saw what you saw at the circus and responded the way you did? I started changing as a little girl and eventually made it and made it to vegan. Why did we do that? Why doesn't everybody do that?
I've been racking my brain for now 29 years as a vegan, trying to figure out why some people get it and others don't. I don't have the answer. Sometimes I think some people have a compassion gene and others don't. I know we've all been conditioned, we've all been brainwashed, programmed, we've been turned into automatons who are incapable of thinking rationally and logically, especially when animals are in play. I don't know though what the magic formula is. I'll tell you what works though. I mean, it's worked for me. People have been saying I've converted millions of people worldwide, definitely hundreds of thousands during my lecture tours from 2002 to the end of 2014. I was converting around 50% of every crowd I spoke to. The truth works, the harsh truth, holding people accountable, not coddling them, not holding their hands, but calling them out for what they're doing, challenging them to be ethical, to walk the compassionate talk, and not to be a politician. The professors always told me one thing, each and every one had the same comment. Gary, man, we never met anybody so open and willing to talk about everything they believe in without being a politician. You really speak your mind. So I know that that works. And too many people in the vegan movement why not play games or use gimmicks and say things like, well, I'm an animal advocate instead of wanting to say I'm an animal rights activist or an animal liberationist. Like, there's no need to play gimmicks, no need to play games. And I'm not saying don't do your own style. If my style doesn't mesh with you, you don't feel comfortable making Holocaust or slavery comparisons. You don't have to use those comparisons to get the point across. You can still talk about the massacre that's taking place, the more than 80 billion land animals every year on this planet, more than 2 trillion marine animals who are murdered every year for a sandwich. You can still talk about the injustice, talk about the female animals being raped to impregnate them. And if you don't want to use the word rape, it doesn't matter. Talk about the artificial impregnating of these female animals and then stealing their babies after birth. Talk about that the males in the industries get electro-ejaculated. It's truthful. That's what happens. They obtain the sperm so they can impregnate the female animals. You can talk about the house of slaughter. Talk about how horrible it would be that if humans were inside, everybody would be up in arms. But all of a sudden, the victims have fur, feathers, horns, beaks, and gills, and everybody thinks it's okay and it doesn't matter. just speak openly and clearly. But I still don't know the complete magic formula for making somebody get it. I wish I did, Victoria. I really wish I knew that formula.
I think a lot of it has to do with how other than human beings are viewed by the vast majority of humans. I think that in the time of human slavery in America, there was a lot of that sort of view of the people who were enslaved. We've been watching the documentary about the American Revolution, and there was this horrible quotation from this slave owning woman that just basically implied that she did not see these human people whose bodies she owned as being human people at all. And I think that's how it is with animals. We just so blithely hear people say, well, they're animals. Well, yeah, so are we.
I don't like to embarrass and insult the animal kingdom anymore by putting us in it. I know technically we are animals, but we've turned into two-legged devils. We are not part of the natural world anymore. But you bring up something that is really horrible, and this is the problem why change takes so long, why injustice is so hard to eradicate. You actually have to ask the oppressors, the tormentors, the enslavers, and the murderers not to oppress, enslave, torment, and murder anymore, whether humans are the victims or animals are the victims. If it was up to me and you, we'd have the animals liberated by now, but we have to beg the meat, dairy, and egg eaters to no longer pay somebody to kill cows, pigs, chickens, and turkeys, and fish, and other animals. And this takes so long and it's so horrifying because let's talk about, you brought up black slavery in America. To me, this is kind of how it probably went down 400 years ago when it started. I'm sure the first few black people here said, "Hey, wait, what are you doing to me? Why did you rape my wife? Why are you stealing my baby from me? Why are you beating me? Please don't do this." And they said, "No, I own you. You're mine." And then this went on for decades and decades. They're begging, "Please don't do this to me." And then all of a sudden, man, a couple hundred years later, they're like, "Well, we'll think about it. We'll consider it." And then a couple hundred years later, finally, you had to convince them to say, "Okay, all right. We'll let you guys free. We won't own you anymore. We'll pay you a fair wage. You can have your own freedom." But why did this process take 400 years? To me, this is a condemnation about how horrible humans are, because in my eyes the conversation should have lasted 5 minutes, and I'm being generous. When the first black person said to the first white person, "Wait, what are you doing to me? Don't beat me, don't steal my baby and rape my wife," the first white person should have said, "Oh my God, yeah, what am I doing here?" But people are so defiant when it comes to being in charge. You notice that there's always a group that has to be in charge to make themselves feel better. Whether it was white people over blacks, whether it's men over women, whether it's straight people over gay people, or whether it's human beings over the entire animal kingdom, just makes us feel special for some reason. But I don't feel that way. I know the animals are more special than we are. I feel less special. I feel embarrassed to be a human being right now because of how my species treats the animals. But it is just a shame that we have to ask the murderers and the tormentors not to murder and torment, and this is why this has been going on for thousands of years. And I hate to say it, it's probably going to be going on for a long time as well, long after we're gone. I wish it would end in my lifetime. 29 years ago, when I started being vegan, I had really high hopes that we would make a lot of progress. And there's been some progress. Don't get me wrong. I'm obviously aware of it. I've seen it, been a part of it, but nowhere near the progress I thought. In fact, 29 years ago, if you had asked me to predict some things that would have been abolished by now, I would have said product testing for sure, horse carriages, I would have said circuses, rodeos, horse racing, dog racing. All these things still take place. Bullfighting, for crying out loud, this despicable, tormenting act of cruelty. masking around and masquerading as entertainment. I would have thought the blatant acts of cruelty would have been abolished by now. And all of those things still take place. So it depends on what day you ask me how much hope I have. There are days when people are listening and I'm thinking, oh my God, we can do this. And there are days when people aren't listening and I'm thinking, oh my God, these poor animals forever, they're going to be victimized forever. But it's really such a simple act that everybody could do. It's not going to change your life. It's going to change, well, it's going to change your life for the better, but it's going to change the life of the animals if you simply live the vegan way. It's such an easy thing to do. Again, change what you eat, what you wear, what charities you support, demand change, take the animals out of the circus, make it an all human circus. Everything's going to still function and go on. I don't know why people choose to be so defiant with eating dead cows and dead pigs and dead chickens and dead turkeys, by the way, which is going to happen in 24 hours. At least in America. I don't know what other parts of the world celebrate it, but what a horrible thing. And by the way, something that people think is cute and it's really taunting and mocking to me is when the president of the US pardons a turkey. So we're talking about more than 40 million turkeys are just dying for Thanksgiving, let alone throughout the year. I think it's over 100 million, maybe more than that. But one turkey gets pardoned and people want to put an imaginary halo over their heads. Oh, look how nice we are. We set one turkey free and killed tens of millions of other ones.
Oh, and they don't even have the decency to say, okay, we're letting one go. They
Yeah.
say, you're pardoned. For what?
Yeah. From what crime, by the way? For being a turkey, we're going to say.
Oh,
And by the way, I want to let people know a lot of people seem to think, oh, the right wing people don't understand veganism. The left wing people don't
mm-mm.
understand it either. I heard something. I was watching TV when Barack Obama was in office the first time. And on Thanksgiving, he pardons the turkey. They don't realize the mic is on. There's a hot mic. And after he does it, he leans over to whoever else was around him and he says, somebody better get that turkey away from me before I change my mind. I heard it. My own ears. I heard it. It went on. Now, again, Barack seems to be a pretty bright individual, except when animals are involved. And I've been telling so many people, you have seemingly brilliant people that become hillbilly idiots when you ask them to be nice to a turkey
Mm.
or a cow or a pig or a chicken. And it doesn't matter what your educational background is, what political party you're affiliated with. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, your gender. When you ask somebody to be nice to a cow, watch seemingly rational people fly off the handle and become idiots and say the dumbest things like animals don't feel pain. Oh, that's why they were put here. Oh, God says it's okay, but I need my protein. Oh, but lions eat zebras. I mean, they just throw out excuse after excuse. And why not make an excuse to be nice? If you're going to make an excuse, don't make an excuse to be cruel and vicious and vile to somebody else. Make an excuse to be kind.
Yeah. I think a lot of it does have to do with education, which I know that you are really big on. The wonderful woman who founded the Animal Interfaith Alliance in the UK, Barbara Gardner, was given an MBE, Member of the British Empire, for her contributions to animal welfare. This just happened within the last couple of weeks. And she was there at the palace and speaking briefly with the King Charles, who asked what project she was particularly involved with at the moment. And she said, alternatives to animal experimentation. And he said, with some interest, oh, there are alternatives. And sometimes when I hear something like that, it's like just what you said. It doesn't matter what your status is in the world, what kind of education you have. Most people are sorely undereducated about who animals are, what they are, our relationship to them. And this thing about that's what they're put here for. You know, when some very religious person says that, I have to talk to them a different way because they really believe someone put the animals here for that. But I hear from these people that don't believe in any kind of higher power. That's what they're put here for. By whom? I mean, it's just we become such blithering idiots when trying to justify the unjustifiable. And then we have somebody in the world like you who speaks the truth, your voice in the wilderness. So, talk to us a little bit, Gary, about where we are right now, coming to the end of 2025. I mean, I remember not long ago, it was so cool to be vegan. I mean, it was Year of the Vegan, and all the people with money were putting it into Beyond Meat. And I mean, it was just moving in the right direction. And now it's moving temporarily, at least, in a different direction. How do you see where we are?
I'm not sure it's that different, Victoria. A lot of people have been bringing this up. I've been vegan for 29 years. Listen, there's more plant-based foods on the market. There's more restaurants offering plant-based vegan options, that's for sure. But all in all, it seems to be the same to me. The same excuses. There's no new excuse. Every excuse I've heard in the last few months while I've been on the road in Germany and Amsterdam and Spain, same shit I heard 29 years ago. People are still arguing, still unaware, still uneducated about this. I mean, King Charles saying there's alternatives. And by the way, alternatives, vivisection doesn't even work. I actually just did an interview for a vivisection documentary yesterday. It's not even a valid form of science, let alone talking about how unethical it is to sew the eyes of kittens shut, to mimic blindness, to light a pig on fire for burn research. But you cannot extrapolate information from one species and make it relevant to another species. You can't work on a dog to help a horse. You can't work on a horse to help a cat. Can't work on a cat to help a bunny rabbit. And you can't work on dogs and cats and mice and monkeys to help human beings, anyways. There's no extrapolative coefficient. And there's always been real techniques of medical research, of scientific research that actually has produced results, especially in the last few decades. Cellular biology, molecular biology, in vitro, 3D models, computer models, mathematical models, and most importantly, human-based clinical research trials. There are people that are dying around the world, sitting around, withering away as these researchers are tormenting and torturing mice and monkeys and not producing any valid results. And these people are begging for it. Give me the experimental drug if you think it works. I'm dying. And I'll even say this, I haven't told anyone this story, but one of my dogs, Bourbon, this was about 20 years ago. He had a blood disorder. He was dying. He was in the veterinary office for a week. I visited him several times every day, and it looked pretty hopeless at the end. And the veterinarian came up to me and said, Gary, if you agree to this, I have an experimental drug that might help him. I don't know what it's going to do, but we think it could help him. Would you agree to this? Hell yeah, I would agree to it. What do you mean? I mean, as long as you tell me you think you produce this drug that could help a dog with this blood disorder, yes, please use him. Yes, put it on him. And it worked for 48 hours. He bounced back, but then he ended up plummeting and things went badly. But he was dying anyway. So those are the same. Like, there are humans with diseases that would give me the drug. Let's see if it really works. Because it's not going to, even if it does work on the mouse, it's not going to work on humans. I got a quote from, man, there was a researcher, I want to say the Centers for Disease Control, it's in my file somewhere, maybe the NIH. He said, we have cured mice of cancer for decades, but we don't know how to make it relevant to a human being. And the sarcastic comment I used to tell my audiences was, well, listen, when my friend Beth, when one of her rats, and she used to have 7 or 8, when one of her rats gets sick with cancer, I'll be sure to rush them down to the NIH or the CDC. But God forbid somebody I know, a human being, gets cancer. Nobody knows what to do. So, but there people are intentionally dumbed down with this, and they don't want to think about it. How about this? Do you know that when I did have a bad crowd, now I was averaging 200 lectures a year. I only had about 15 or 20 that turned into a Jerry Springer show, which is amazing, considering that topic that I'm discussing. I'm trying to teach people to be nice to chickens and fish, and only 15 or 20 crowds are flipping out on me. But the reason they flipped out, I crumbled their foundations. I proved the point that humans are not superior to animals, that animals don't deserve to be treated like nothing, like their lives don't matter. Now, the good people in the crowd, when I crumbled their foundation, they rebuilt by changing their life, by getting on the path to veganism or becoming vegan right on the spot. But the ones that freaked out, they're trying to walk on a crumbled foundation. And that's when you start saying stupid, idiotic things. God says it's okay. I need my protein. That's why animals are here. They don't think, they don't feel. And with this whole God stuff, I mean, I 29 years, Victoria, the number one excuse to this day is God says it's okay. I had a student, I've been telling this story lately, Macomb Community College here in Michigan. He brings up the Bible. I was very well versed in the Bible. It was tough to beat me, and we could have a scriptural argument, which was stupid to me, anyways. You say your nasty scripture, I say my peaceful one, Genesis 1:29. I say Isaiah 11, you say, well, Genesis 9:3. Like it just goes back and forth, and I'm just trying to prove my point that if you really think God is a torturer and a tormentor and a slave master and a murderer of his animals, then you're not referring to God, you're referring to the devil. Can you think logically? And you shouldn't have to turn to a book and ask the book and read in the book whether you should be kind to somebody else. You shouldn't have to confer with a book whether or not you should rape somebody else, whether you should torment somebody else. But this one student, he wants to argue about this. And then as he started his response after my last scripture, he says, he starts saying the word kill. I noticed it was coming out a lot. So I'm in front of the crowd going like this. I'm counting. And I get to 7, and he finally says, what are you doing? So I'm counting how many times you say kill. It actually hit him like a ton of bricks. He stopped. He didn't even know what to say. Now, I didn't know if it was going to work. I was trying to make a point. I moved on with the Q&A, and after the class, he came up and he says, I'm so sorry. I apologize. In the name of God, I'm going vegan. In the name of Jesus, you're right. I can't believe I was saying kill. I said, I can't believe it either, because all I've encountered pretty much over the last 29 years is religious people wanting to kill in the name of God. When do people want to love in the name of God? Show compassion in the name of God. Be merciful in the name of God. Again, Victoria, we're not asking much. We're just asking for some simple decency, for some ethics, and we're asking people to treat animals the same exact way that they would want to be treated if they were in their position. All you got to do is live by the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have done unto yourself, and you'll discover veganism and you'll lead an ethical life.
When you talk about destroying somebody's foundation and then they can build back up, help us with that because when I started this podcast 13 years ago, I thought it was going to be reaching people that were veg curious, and it does to an extent. But most of the listeners are already committed. They just need some help in getting others on board. So help us understand how you do what you do and how you have the success rate with audiences that you do.
Honestly, it's speaking from the heart. Yeah, I know my topics, and you need to know your topics. If you're going to talk to people, know some Bible scriptures, understand why vivisection is unscientific, understand what's going on in the circuses and the rodeos. And it doesn't take long to research that and find the information. But after that, let it pour out. If you wanted to talk to me right now about taxes being too high in America, I wouldn't know what to say. I'd be a bumbling idiot. I don't care about things like that. But you asked me to speak on behalf of innocent beings? who are being tortured and abused and intentionally killed, yeah, it's going to pour out of me. And you hear how it comes out of me. I'm speaking for them. So nearly every vegan feels the same way I do. I know we have some health-based vegans, and for the record, the animals don't care why you don't eat them. And I don't either. I'm just concerned that when I hear people falling off the vegan bandwagon, and I hate to say that term, but it's because they're health-based and not ethically based. So even if you're health-based, understand what the animals are going through so you can have that foundation that's still there. But speak from the heart to all the vegans out there. Speak how you would want to be spoken for. Again, tell them it's a massacre, an endless massacre every second of every day. Don't let people off the hook. Establish some simple rules, by the way, in life. 1997, I said, if you want to eat with me from now on, you're going to eat vegan or we're not eating together. Doesn't mean we can't be friends. I got an old friend who's not vegan. I've known him since I was 8 years old, more than 45 years. But if Darren wants to eat with me, he eats vegan and he eats it happily. There's no mockery. There's no there's no making jokes. So establish that rule. Now, my ex-wife Erica didn't want to establish this rule years ago, and I encouraged her and explained, wait a second, if you're going to allow your family to eat dead animals in front of you, you're condoning it. Would you let them watch child porn in front of you? Tell them, would you let them tell a racist joke in front of you? You would say something about those things. So why are you letting them off the hook with this? And then she finally instituted the rule, and she is so thrilled because she says, well, you know what? When I visit them a couple times a year, you know what? 3, 4, 5 days, everyone's eating vegan, and there's no cruelty happening intentionally right now. And she even establishes that rule for when her brother visits with his friends, and they all eat vegan. And it's a great form of activism. So if people out there are saying, oh, how can I be more active? I can't be active like Gary and give all those lectures. Well, guess what? You can still be active to a degree. Make them vegan food. Better yet, if you think that there's not a good place in town where you can take them to for a nice vegan meal, make them a great vegan meal. Blow them away. Give them the good stuff, by the way. I used to have, sometimes we got to trick people. Quick story. My dad was 411 pounds back in the day. And he was like everyone else I knew. He didn't want to hear about it. He didn't want to eat the vegan food. I don't give me that crap, blah, blah, blah. So I had to trick him one day. I'm a sports junkie. Me and my dad shared that in common. It was Sunday football. I bring over bagels, and instead of cream cheese, guess who brings tofutti cream cheese, by the way? Tofutti, whatever they do, man, that's still great shit. But I bring over tofutti cream cheese, but I take the lid off because it doesn't say tofutti. It looks like cream cheese, looks just like it. So I set it down. I'm like, hey, Pops, they're about to kick off. So he waddles into the room, 411 pounds. He sits down, he grabs a bagel, smears it on. There goes the first one down. I don't say anything. I'm bursting inside. I can't wait to say, oh, Dad. So my plan was I was going to wait till the second one was going down. So he grabs number two, smears it on. Halfway through, I'm like, "Hey, Dad, you like the bagels and cream cheese today?" Are you kidding me? I always love bagels and cream cheese. Why do you ask? I don't know. It's tofu cream cheese. Oh, what are you feeding me? Oh no, it was great. A second ago, it was a tofutti all over your face. So sometimes you just gotta trick them too. Maybe don't even tell them. Use that Beyond Meat, Impossible stuff, the Gardein stuff, the Tofurkey stuff that's out there on the market. Put some veganese on that sandwich instead of some mayonnaise. They won't even know. They'll be like, man, this is great. Serve them some soy delicious ice cream. They won't even know. Tell them afterward. But you could also tell them in advance and just blow them away, cook them a vegan meal. But you have to confront people. You have to hold them accountable. It's never going to change if we let everybody off the hook. But I highly recommend doing my eat vegan with me rule. You eat with me, we eat vegan.
That's a good one. So, what about individual outreach versus group outreach? It seems to me that when you're speaking to a whole group, you can be tougher because you're not zeroing somebody out. But when you're one on one with somebody and they say, I just bought half a gallon of almond milk, My way with them is, whoa, that's so great. And have you tried hemp and cashew? So, is there a difference when you're one-on-one versus when you're talking?
I think they're both valuable, honestly.
Yeah.
In fact, the smaller it is, if it's one on one, it could be more intimate. You could put a hand around somebody, put your hand on their shoulder, bring them in closely and go, oh, come on. Man, you can call them out in a nicer, easier way. So there's benefits to both. Now, of course, the bigger crowd is better in this regard. I can reach more people in one setting. But if it's one on one, you can still I do it at the gym. I've converted people over the years at the gym one on one with a conversation or a couple conversations, and I've gotten people to reduce a lot. There was one guy at the gym, my buddy Dave. He looks just like Goldberg, the wrestler. If you don't know who that is, look it up online. He's an absolute beast. The story was that Dave was starting to give lectures for his company. Somebody overheard, and he wanted to learn how to give a lecture. Enrique at the gym, who knew me, said, "Man, you know Gary gives lectures. You should watch his speech." So he gives him a link to my speech. Next day he comes back. He tells Enrique, "Man, he is the best speaker I've ever seen in my life. Wow, thanks for sharing that. Everything he said is nonsense, but man, he is a great speaker." So Enrique tells me that. I said, "Really?" Dave said it was nonsense. So I was starting to get to know Dave, and we had sports in common, as a lot of guys at the gym do. So I'm jumping in on conversations. I start breaking them down, getting close to him. I said, "Hey, Dave. So I heard you said you watch. I heard that you watched my speech and you like my style. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, but I also heard you said that it was all nonsense. What? What was nonsense about it?" And of course, he doesn't know what to say. I said, "Don't be embarrassed. That's what you said. Most people feel that way. I'm not even mad at you. Why? What did I say that was so stupid about being kind to animals? And have you ever had a vegan meal?" So no, I never have. I said, "Yeah, I didn't think so." Tell you what, you're coming with me. Now, we had a place in Detroit called Chili Mustard Onions. It was a vegan Coney Island. Unfortunately, COVID knocked it out of business. But man, it was a great junk food place to take non-vegans to and blow them away. I bring him down there reluctantly. He's all upset. I'm like, "No, you're coming down here." They had a Big Mac, which was a mock Big Mac. And we get there, I order it. It looks just like a Big Mac. He doesn't want to bite it. I said, "Dave, you know I want you to become vegan, right?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you think I'm going to give you something that's not going to make your knees buckle? Take a bite." He takes a bite and takes a bite, and this is what he says. He goes, "Oh my God! Oh my God! Why does he sell us to McDonald's? Oh my, this is he could make $1 billion." I said, "All our food is like that." And listen, if not all our food, most of our food is like that. Meat, dairy, and egg eaters are so unfair in many ways, but one of the ways is they judge our food with the highest bar, right? It's got to make your knees buckle. And but these are the same people that will eat at 7-Eleven. They'll grab a sandwich from a gas station, and that's okay. But all of a sudden, the veggie burger's got to make me break out in a cold sweat and make my knees buckle. It's like, geez, man, you guys set the bar so high, and then you act like you're food gourmets. Really? So that hot dog that's been sitting on that grill at 7-Eleven for 48 hours, all of a sudden, that's okay, Mr. Food Gourmet. But all of a sudden, the veggie burger from Gardein all of a sudden doesn't taste right. Get out of here. But I brought Dave down. He loved it so much. He actually said to me when he finished, he goes, "Can I bring my wife tomorrow?" He said, "Hell yeah." And I took him and Melissa tomorrow. The following day, we went down there. I've actually taken him to 3 or 4 different vegan restaurants over the years. And now he's 75% vegan. Of course, it's not good enough for the animals. But hey, from a guy that said everything I said was nonsense to now he's going, "Gary, my breakfast is always vegan now. I turn them on to grains, barley and millet, farro, even some quinoa." He says he makes a big bowl of grains every morning. By the way, he's just as big and strong as he used to be, eating all this stuff. So I'm hoping one day, because the seed is planted, he's going to take that final step. And he adores his cat Winston. Oh, he talks about Winston, and I said, "Boy, you would do anything for Winston. How come you won't do anything for the chickens and the cows and the pigs? Besides size, shape, and color, what's the difference between Winston and a cow and a pig and a chicken? You know you're being discriminatory." And you know, my dogs in my life, as I look back, I think my dogs also had a lot to do with my understanding finally of why veganism is necessary. I thought back to Shadow and Bourbon and Brandy and Rex and Doyle and realized, man, I would do anything for them. Why don't I feel the same way about all the animals on the planet? So many people out there have this wonderful relationship with their dogs and their cats, and I just don't know why they can't extend it to all the animals. Why do they get such special treatment most of the time?
I heard a woman from a country that has a very strict Islamist government, and she said that when a woman reaches menopause, she gets a lot of rights because she's considered no longer attractive, and so she can be sort of an honorary man. And that reminded me immediately of how it is for many dogs and cats and some other companion animals, some horses, and certain wildlife. We put them in this status, like in her country, the postmenopausal woman. And it's just an arbitrary thing that the people in power decide. And we've decided that. I mean, thank God some animals are having good lives. So that's something. We have so far to go. And I wanted to ask you, yesterday I was talking with a colleague that I admire, and he was really in shock that he had gone to a vegetarian slash vegan event, and he'd met a lot of vegetarians, and many of them were Indian, so it was cultural to be lacto vegetarian. And it was really, really hard for him that these people that he was talking to were not yet ready to jump on the vegan bandwagon. So, what does one do in a situation like that? Encourage somebody from where they are, or shame them into going further?
I guess it kind of depends. It depends to me on how they're responding. If they're open to it, encouragement. But I always gave what I got. If you were sarcastic to me, I gave you a sarcastic answer right back. That's why I just did a video where I talked about meat, dairy, and egg eaters engaging in bestiality. And they hear this from me because all I hear from them most of the time is, bacon. And all of a sudden there's an animal being abused in some news story, and all the comments are like, grill them up, barbecue them up. But if it's a dog being abused, oh my God, the poor dog, right? They're just so full of shit that, so it depends. But I love encouraging. I honestly do. This is what I did for most of my activism career. You got to encourage people to get on the vegan way and show them the way. Let these and vegetarians though. Vegetarians are a tough crowd. They're one of the toughest. It's weird to say that, but they are one of the toughest crowds. They are the biggest dairy and egg addicts around. In fact, the vegetarians that I've known over the years eat more dairy and eggs than regular meat eaters do. It's crazy because all they've done is replace the flesh with the dairy and eggs, right? Liquid flesh. So, but encouragement is always appropriate. Now, to me, that would end though as soon as they started being nasty, if they started getting nasty. So people need to know too, if people are being nasty, you could be nasty back. Don't be afraid to say something back to them because if it's not working, what's the difference? What's the point of being nice? You know, people always say, oh, you should take the high road. Why? For what purpose?
Well,
I mean,
and
you,
who's high road, you
yeah,
know?
who's high road? And you're going to be walking alone on this high road. So you have to take the low road because we're dealing with people who live on the low road.
Yeah.
So I this is why I work so well. Again, during my Q&A sessions, I had 5, 10, 15 different answers as soon as the question was asked. In my head, I had all these different answers, and it depended on how you asked me. Again, you asked me sarcastically, I got a sarcastic one right back for you. You ask me serious, even if it's a stupid question, such as, well, don't tomatoes feel pain? If you ask me serious, and I could tell by the tone, Okay, I'll explain sentience and insentience to you. I'll talk about that tomatoes don't have a central nervous system, and if a tomato was drowning next to a dog, would you seriously jump in to save the tomato? Stop it. Okay, so I would show them, I would teach them. So have different answers, speak to people on their terms. Um, and you know what? People have to understand this the most. Sometimes, it's not even sometimes, people are ready for the message or they're not, no matter how you say it, no matter how you act. That's something we really can't influence. It doesn't matter how the messenger says it. Because people have told me over the years, oh, Gary, I think you're too harsh sometimes, and this and that, and you should say this, and you should be a little kinder. And first of all my lectures were completely based on kindness. That's why the professors brought me in. It wasn't that I wasn't kind. Catch me on the right day, I'm as gentle as Gandhi. Catch me on the wrong day, I'm as harsh as early Malcolm X. But don't act like it wasn't based on kindness all the time and trying to educate people. But I learned over the years it didn't matter how I said it or what I said. It was on the listener whether they were ready to hear the message. And that's something else I can't figure out. We talked about this earlier. What's the magic formula for making somebody get it? I don't know what the formula is for figuring out why somebody is ready to hear the message. But again, I will say the ones that changed, and I changed millions, it was because of the harsh, brutal, honest truth. Don't act like a politician. Tell them what's going on. Call them out. Let them know what's going on. Here's a story too. University of Akron. I had two guys in the back of the room acting like little 5-year-old brats. And I stopped my lecture about 20 minutes in and I walked up. I said, hey, shut the hell up. Is this kindergarten or is this college? It's college. Okay. Well, then shut the hell up. In fact, you go sit over there and you sit over there. Went back up, finished my speech. After the speech, one of the guys came up to me and said, hey, man, no one ever called me out like that before. Thank you. That was the best speech I ever heard. And I am going vegan, man. I'm so glad you did that. Now, it didn't work for the other guy, but I was going to lose both of them if I didn't take that action. To me, I had to shut them up. I had to bully the bullies. It's always
Mm,
been one of my specialties, by the way. I like bullying bullies because I don't like bullies. And that's what humans do to animals. If you break it down, we're just a bunch of bullies.
mhm,
Whether it's
mhm.
the vivisection lab using beagles and mice and bunny rabbits, just like bullies, you can do anything to those animals, right? Whether it's the chickens and the turkeys, we're just bullying them. We're killing baby animals. I don't know if people realize this. We're not only animal killers, we're baby animal killers. Chickens get killed at 6 weeks, pigs at 6 months, cows 2.5 years old. We're killing baby animals. We're just a bunch of bullies. And who wants to be a bully? I don't want to be a bully. I don't want to be a two-legged devil. I want to be kind. I want the animals to look at us one day and want to come up to us. You ever wonder why it's so hard to get a wild animal to come up to you? You don't think they see what we do? You don't think they smell death and fear in the air? You don't think they see the slaughterhouse trucks? They know when we come around, somebody usually dies. That's why they don't want anything to do with us. I hope one day we don't act like that anymore.
Mm.
So the wild animals want to come up and say, hey, mind if I sit on your lap, Gary? Hell yeah, please, Mr. Squirrel. Can you jump on me? I've been begging one day for a squirrel to walk up and jump on me and say hi. But I don't blame them for not doing it. Even
Yeah.
though I'm doing it right, sometimes they just look at us and see two-legged devils. Sometimes they don't differentiate. Oh, that's the vegan. Oh, that's the nice
Yeah.
person. That's the mean one. They're just so terrified of us after thousands of years of mistreatment that
Mm,
they're just want nothing to do with us.
yeah. I want to ask you, Gary, this has gone so quickly, and I want to be respectful of your time, but you took a break. You left the outward movement. for a while. Can you just tell us about that and what your conviction is in round two?
Yeah. Well, I never thought about myself during my first 18 years of activism. It was animals first. In fact, the first time I ever thought about how I was doing, I liberated the mink from that concentration camp in Blenheim, Ontario in 1997. 2 years later, there's a trial. I'm found guilty. I'm sentenced to 6 months in prison. The first night they shut the cell door on me, it was the first time I thought about myself. I said, oh my God, what have I done? Okay, I'm in prison right now. This is crazy. After I got out, though, it was all back to the animals, and then it wore on me. I didn't take care of myself well. I was only sleeping 2 hours a night, but I was on a warpath. I was on a mission. I was willing. I made that a promise to that elephant. Not only would I tell everyone about her plight, I promised that I'd give my life for her and the animals and all of her friends. And basically, that's what I did. I'm still alive, but I died inside a long time ago. And 2014 is coming around. I'm beat up. My brain melted. I still don't even understand what we're fighting about anymore. Am I asking somebody not to rape and kill somebody else? I don't even understand why there's an argument. So I knew I had to step back and just take a break and back away. And I felt horribly guilty. I want people to know I didn't, this was not done with glee. There were tears in my eyes when I said, I just can't do this anymore. I can't relax. I can't focus. I can't think clearly anymore. And I basically tucked myself away. I hid away from 2014. I was online for a couple more years, but I basically hid away until earlier this year, till I felt better. The universe called me back out. I'm big on paying attention to the universe, and something was calling me out to Germany and hang out with Anonymous for the Voiceless in Cologne, and Nir Rosenfeld, who's someone I turned vegan in 2012, who now has 7 vegan restaurants in Frankfurt. His daughter Zoe just opened up another one this year, so there's 8 in the family now. So it was time to come back. I feel rejuvenated. I don't see myself getting back in the classroom though. It's like a different chapter of my activism. I'm doing online stuff right now. I'm enjoying all the Instagram videos I'm putting out. Check me out at Real Gary Yourofsky. I'm enjoying all the podcasts I've been doing, but I also don't plan ahead. This is probably going to shock people, and I never did. I always condemn meetings. Let's have a meeting and then we'll have a discussion about the meeting and let's debate the discussion we just had about the meeting we just had. And people wonder why shit doesn't get done or they're not active because they're having fucking meetings. Stop having meetings. Go do what you want to do, then analyze it. So it's not that I didn't analyze what I did, but I didn't waste time analyzing beforehand because it never ends. I would go do something in front of a crowd or in front of a animal establishment that was abusing animals. I'd do a protest, and then after I'd say, "Huh, I wonder if I should have said that. Maybe I should have said it like this. Let me come up with a different way to explain this issue." And then I tried it the next day. I'm like, oh, okay, that really worked. That resonated with some people. So go do something and then analyze. So, anyways, right now, I don't know what the future holds. I know right now I'm very comfortable doing podcasts, telling stories, giving advice. I'm very comfortable doing Instagram videos. Who knows? I might end up back in the classroom. It's not really my plan right now, but again, I don't really have a plan. I don't know. Wherever the universe takes me is where I'm going.
That's beautiful. It really is. This has been such a pleasure and such a privilege. So, listeners, if you happen to hear somebody snoring in the background, that is my new little adoptee, James, who is a mostly Chihuahua but multi nationality dog who has all sorts of wonderful parts, and he does snore. So, in honor of keeping the lights on and also sharing some really good information about a really good product, I do want to do a shout out to our good friends at Complement. That's compliment with an E in the middle. Their website is lovecompliment.com, and they are supplements by vegans for vegans. They're not going to give you every nutrient in the kitchen sink, just what you need if you're already eating really well, little bit of insurance. And now, in addition to their wonderful Complement Essentials formula, they have all kinds of yummy protein powder. I just got a notice from the doorman downstairs that my chocolate protein just came. First time I've tried chocolate. So lovecompliment.com. And if you want to get a 10% discount forever, because I was grandfathered in, even though I should be a grandmother, whatever, it's grand that you get 10% off forever. So check out the show notes at mainstreetvegan.com. We will give you all of Gary Yourofsky's information there. I know on Instagram he is Real Gary Yourofsky, and I love that because there's a lot of stuff out there that other people say about you that doesn't seem to be real. So cool that you have claimed that for yourself. So, as some people are listening to this on Thanksgiving morning and they haven't taken the pledge about not eating with people who are eating animals, and they're going to be with people they love doing something that they hate, can you give them a little bit of help for today?
I can't get out of there, man. All I know is over the years since I instituted this rule, a lot of my vegan friends did not. They'd call me on Thanksgiving. I wish I was hanging with you. I'm like, I'm smoking a joint, eating some tofurkey and yams right now, watching football. You guys are miserable. They're like, oh, my family's terrible. They're mocking me. I'm like, why do you do that? Don't put up with it. Take a stand. So I don't have a way to cope because I could not cope sitting around people eating a dead turkey, joking about that dead turkey's life, mocking that turkey's death. Get out of there. Get out of there and mandate a vegan Thanksgiving or do your own vegan Thanksgiving. And by the way, I'm not getting money from Tofurkey, but damn, I love Tofurkey roast. Back since I started, since the 90s, I have loved Tofurkey, and I got one prepared for tomorrow too with some yams. Gonna do a bunch of vegetables and onions and potatoes and carrots and green beans. It's so nice to have a meal without violence, without torture,
Mm.
without a dead body as the centerpiece.
What a beautiful phrase, a meal without violence. I think most people hearing that nowadays would say, oh, yeah, a meal when we don't argue about politics. Okay, that too, but also where nobody had to die so that other people could fall asleep in front of the TV. Thank you. Thank you so, so very much, everybody. I'd say he's as cool as we've been told. So thank you so much. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, listeners. And now, everybody, let us go out on this Thanksgiving Day or whenever you are listening and make Main Street vegan.